Welcome to today's podcast. The topic for today is cleaning customers and dealing with complaints. So Diane, have got any good customers?
Lots of good customers. We love complaints. It helps us improve.
No, but to be fair, what worries me is there's not enough complaints.
It's like I think you said before, it's the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? If the people that actually complain, there's a lot more usually going on that don't say anything. I was told a stat a few years ago, which was that 68% of your customers who leave because they don't think that you care, because you haven't asked them whether they're happy.
It's hard, isn't it? And when is a complaint feedback and when is a complaint? So we don't get complaints, we get feedback because we hopefully nip it in the bud before it's a complaint. And when we get complaints, they tend to be big though.
Yeah. And we introduced it a long time ago now, probably about 10 years ago. We introduced a feedback system. So we actually ask our customers for feedback after every clean. We send them an email. We ask for a score out of 5. And a lot don't reply. A tiny percentage actually reply on a regular basis. But what it means is we get like so much positive feedback, but anything that's what we call constructive feedback, anything that's a little bit negative, it means we can fix it. And actually, any customer that makes a complaint or gives us feedback that's not positive, they usually stay because we deal with it and we care and we demonstrate that we want to improve.
So the main reason for getting rid of cleaners is that they don't turn up. So let's say as a cleaning company, you're turning up, or as a cleaner, you're turning up. Really, all you've got to do is listen to the customer and give them what they want. Just turn up, deliver what they want, and listen. It's that simple, isn't it?
Yeah. So what we would actually call a complaint? What are the things that you have to deal with?
So a genuine complaint or some ridiculous. So
let's have a mix.
It's really, so I had one this week and the customer was like, your cleaners have not hoovered or mopped my floors in weeks. I was like, really? So you're telling me it hasn't been hoovered or mopped? No, it hasn't. I was like, okay, so how about I check after the next clean? So I turned up earlier this week, checked. Of course they'd hoovered and mopped. And I said, so what makes you think they've not hoovered and mopped? And he was like, look. And he's got a load of textured tiles, like they're like slate tiles, right? And our mopping system is really, really good. But if you can't even see this stuff, but if you run your hand along the slate tiles, then you could pull up some dust. And I was like, without being rude, there is no way I'm going to get this. I was like, the only way this is going to happen is if I get down and scrub it on my hands and knees. I was like, this has clearly been vacuumed and mopped, but I can't get that level of detail. So I was like, fine, we'll do it on our hands and knees. And I did it in front of him and he could still pull up some. And I was like, this isn't the cleaners being useless. This is the level to which you expect us to do it. Which is fine, but then it has to be built into the quote.
Absolutely. And the question has to be asked, are you going to eat off your floor? It's the floor. And vacuuming and mopping is adequate in terms of hygiene, but it's never going to make it absolutely spotless unless you do it on your hands and knees. And even then, with a rough tile.
Diane, have you ever had it? You must have had this one. I had my child on the floor. I wiped the floor with a baby wipe. And it's come up dirty.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's that thing, well, yes, we can't clean your floor with a baby wipe. That's the only way of, doing it by hand like that is the only way you can get it 100% spotless. It's about managing their expectations, isn't it? And I think clients like that are few and far between, but yeah, it is going to happen.
Do you know what I've done before? I'll have to get a bit scientific. I've literally marked out boxes, right? And I went, right, this box, I'll mop. This with a mop and bucket. This one I'll do with a nice flathead microfiber one. And this one I'll do by hand. And even doing it by hand, that was the only way. And if you do it with a wet wipe, it still doesn't come up well. You literally have to scrub it with a microfiber cloth. Yeah. And on a wooden floor, it still doesn't come up perfect. So
no, absolutely.
I was like, and when you show them that, and I go, come on, seriously, what do you want me to do? Because I can't pass my own test
Yeah, but it's just managing their expectations, isn't it? And we don't get many clients like that sort of walk around with the white glove and the bit of tissue.
I've got a few because we promise really high end. And the interesting one is when they go, well, when I had a customer, this is one of my best customers, I really love this lady. She had a granite work surface and she said, every time you're not cleaning it properly, there's crumbs all over it. So I went, all right, fine. So after the next clean, I went round there and I ran my hand over. The cleaner has cleaned it. It did feel a bit gritty. So we cleaned it. I cleaned it again. I personally cleaned this thing and it still felt gritty. So I cleaned it again. Right. I must have cleaned this thing 4 times. I cleaned it and I cleaned it and I cleaned it and it still felt gritty. And so I went back to the customer. I was really open. I said, look, I have cleaned this and I've cleaned it and I've cleaned it. It still feels gritty. She goes, well, it's not gritty after I do it. I went, all right, well, you do it. You show me how to not make it gritty. And she did. And it was still gritty afterwards. I said, well, okay, we'll leave it a couple of days and then you do it. She goes, it's not normally. I said, all right, leave it a couple of days. You do it. And she had to come back and she goes, yeah, that's just the texture, isn't it? I was like, yes.
Yeah. And that's interesting because you didn't sort of immediately say, no, we have done it. You kind of, your client could be right, and you've got to acknowledge often that, they could be right. It can't always be, well, no, I've done it. Sometimes it can be, well, hang on a minute, what's going on here? We've had a client that complained that the floors were sticky. And it turned out the team member that was going was just putting a whole glug of floor cleaner in. So, there was just too much product. So it was building up and it was causing the stickiness. So, we could have turned around and go, well, she's vacuumed and mopped it. She's done her job. But actually there was a problem. So we investigated and we took took it seriously and we changed and we now dilute our floor cleaner in advance. So that when the cleaner puts it in a bucket of hot water, it means that it's a much less product being used.
But we've had this, floors are a real challenge, where you go and you mop it. And so we don't have a foaming floor cleaner and foam's coming up. And I've gone to the customer and gone, what are you doing in between our cleans? Well, I'm doing it with bleach and fairy liquid.
Oh, yay.
Oh, okay. So, and I'm going like, what do you want me to do? This is impossible. Could you stop doing that? Like, could you perhaps use a floor cleaner or
yes.
A lot of complaints? Like, I tend to find I'm really open and honest about it. I'll always investigate. And if it's partly their fault, well, I'll explain what needs to be done differently. And if it's our fault, hands up, we did it.
Yeah. Acknowledge, investigate. That's all you need to do. And I think sometimes we get a bit emotional about things and actually the client isn't necessarily having to go at you. Especially if you've got a team, they're definitely not having a go at you, are they? So there's no reason to take it personally or to be worried about it. It's not an easy thing to manage, especially if a client's quite upset about something. But so long as you acknowledge why they're upset and accept that there could be a problem, then investigate it and then come up with a solution as to how you're going to deal with it moving forward, or that you can't, whichever the outcome is. Clients can actually be really understanding. And we measure all our client feedback over the year, and out of thousands and thousands of feedback, 2% of it, and probably not even that, is what we call a complaint, but it's not a complaint. Sometimes it might be, a team member missed a light switch. It can be really minor things, but we just use them to improve. Simple as that.
We do it slightly differently to you. We leave feedback cards because what we found is a lot of customers didn't want to get in contact with us at the office because they felt like they were telling on the cleaner. So what we found is by giving them a feedback card after every clean, then they could write any notes and it could just be given to the cleaner because often they're not there. They leave notes for the cleaner and the notes could be get the light switch or oops, I've dropped a can of soup. Could you just get all my kickboards or could you pay attention to this? And because clients don't want to leave notes. They don't want to feel like they're telling us what to do. So we had to try and encourage as much communication as possible. And they don't want to text. They just want to make it super informal. And if they're not there, it's really hard.
Yeah. Well, we do it by email. And that's purely because then we can filter any feedback to our team, because sometimes the way a client says something, or actually, to be honest, sometimes they might say, I don't want that cleaner again. So, we would filter that. We would obviously never tell a team member that that's what happened. So, yeah, it gives us a chance to filter it and give it in a way to our team when it's feedback or retraining, or sometimes we retrain the whole team. So it allows us, because we're the sort of the in-between bit for our clients. And as I said, for us, if they were to send us a 3 out of 5, we'd be in contact to find out what the problem is. Anything that was 4 or 5, they're sort of 80% upwards, they're fine. But 3 and below, obviously, we just get in touch with the client to ask for some more information. So it's a trigger for the client, and then a really quick one as well for them.
Yeah, any email, any correspondence from clients, we're straight in contact, because the feedback card cuts out the little niggles. So anything they get in contact with,
it's going to be a big one. So go on then. Have you had some big ones that you want to share?
Big one. Yeah, there's so many. Like, have I had complaints? Yes. One recently, which was pretty monumentally bad. So we've been cleaning. I mean, there's so many actually, but we've been cleaning one. It was their third clean. She was like, you need to come around and see it. It was a 6-hour clean, 6 hours a week. Every surface, even the walls had mirrors on them. Every surface was mirrored. And she was like, there's a fingerprint here and there's a fingerprint there. And in every room, there was fingerprints and little bits of dust. And I was just like, but you've got a shiny surface, you can see everything. And we hadn't done a good job. It was kind of our fault. And, when you stand there and you're just like, I don't know what to say. Like, clearly we didn't do this. I've offered to refix it. And I'm like, well, I didn't personally do it. And when you just stood there, like, I don't know what to do here. Yes, we've messed up, but
how can we fix this? And would you often ask, because we often would ask the customer, how can we make this better? How can we resolve it? What would you like us to do? Do you ever sort of take that tone?
Yeah,
it can be a dangerous sort of tactic, but it can work really well.
And I'll be honest, in this case, it was entirely our fault. And I kind of just she went, look, I don't really want to keep trying. And I was like, right, you can just have it for free. And I was like, I'm so embarrassed. What do I do? So it wasn't the customer, it was us. And sometimes it's hands up. We messed up. I think in this particular case, what she needed, the staff weren't trained on what to do. And it was really hard. And the only way I could have salvaged this was if I was personally going to sort this out. And I just wasn't available to sort it out. I could not offer the level of customer service she needed. So it was better to part ways and give it to her for free and part ways nicely. And sometimes it's kind of hands up. I could deliver this, but I haven't got time to do it right now.
Yeah. I think my worst complaint, and it has happened a couple of times, which is where, there's probably 2 versions of it, which is one, that the cleaner has left the key in the door. Literally.
You've systemized that out. We've systemized
that. Yeah, you can. And then the other worst thing, which is not really a customer complaint, is more that we have to confess, which is that we've lost their key. Ow. I think that's happened twice in 14 years. And that's for me, that would be my worst customer service stroke complaint to deal with.
Shall I show you? For those of you watching on video, I'll show you what we do, because I've actually got one here. So we have folders where they have notes and things, and customers' keys are on chains. So there is no way, because you can't tie that to a door and then so there's no way they can get lost now. Yeah. But the management that takes, so someone every morning has to unhook all the keys from the chain, hook them on for that day. But since introducing that, there is it's too embarrassing when it happens.
Yeah. So it's just the worst thing to have to deal with.
Yeah. What do you say? By the way, I've left your door open and lost your key, and you're on holiday.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So that's definitely the worst customer complaint to deal with, isn't it?
It's just embarrassing, or really sorry, I've smashed your window. Whoops,
One complaint that we find quite difficult to deal with, I don't know how you deal with it, is around timings. So, we have 3 time slots. So it's either first visit, which is a half an hour time slot, or it's morning or afternoon. There's kind of not really any more sort of specific we can get, but we still get the odd customer that will ring up at 1 o'clock and say, your cleaner's not here yet. We're like, they're coming this afternoon.
So I wouldn't even class that as a complaint. That's more feedback. Let's call it feedback. And it's more a discussion. I think if you view everything like that as a complaint, you start to feel really bad about yourself and bad about your business. So for me, it's more re-education of the customer. Look, I'm really sorry. to be fair, we send them a text anyway, so they actually get a text within 15 minutes.
We usually find it's elderly clients though that are very set on that time.
Oh, every day. It's almost every day. Are the cleaners coming today? Yes. When I was last at your house, I wrote it for the next year, every day that the cleaner's coming, because it's a Tuesday every 2 weeks. So I wrote it in your diary. I wrote the time they're going to arrive, but every time you phone us, I don't know what to say. But you're just nice every time. Yes, we're coming. Yes, we're coming today. We'll be there in 2 hours. Oh, they're at the door now. Well, that's really good, isn't it? Like, it's just customer service, isn't it?
Yeah. So really, I don't think either of us are really that fazed by complaints. We just call it feedback. It's just, this is how we improve. And we actually tell our clients that in our little welcome booklet that clients get. It's always, please give us feedback. It helps us improve, and we reward our team for positive feedback. So it's a really positive thing in our business. But what about those difficult sort of customers? Do you ever come across people that actually just are really difficult to deal with? They're not necessarily complaining, but just a bit difficult.
So the biggest difficulties are actually, by the time they're speaking to the office, if we can't resolve it, we're just going to cancel it. But the biggest difficulties are when the customers are a little bit difficult to the staff. So, for example, they follow them round. Yeah. They follow them and almost silently watch them. And the staff are going, I don't want to do that. Now, I can't send another member of staff. And then you have to feed back to the customer, well, unless you change what you're doing, the staff won't come back again. Or I would say that for me is more challenging, when you have to correct the customer's behavior that may not be aware that what an impact they're having.
Yeah, it's very important actually for your team. That's probably one of the biggest challenges, I think, in the job as such, for going out and doing the cleaning, is feeling comfortable and confident while doing it. Because you can easily feel, not just if somebody's watching you, but just something goes wrong in a house. It can make you feel just not a bit insecure, can't it?
Yeah, or if someone is being a little bit. So we had one where the cleaner was doing the bathroom, and it was a customer's house that we'd done for a long time, lovely customer. And the customer had some building work going on the top floor. We weren't cleaning the top floor, no problem. So the cleaner's cleaning the bathroom, bent over the bath, and this builder's like trying to talk to her, trying to flirt with her. It's, is it going too far? I don't know, but she feels really uncomfortable. And we clean in pairs, so she was absolutely fine. And she went down, spoke to the other cleaner. It was long-term building work that was going on. I had to go back to the customer and go, I'm really sorry, but we now won't clean when the builder's in there because of what had happened. Now, she felt awful and said, okay, that's absolutely fine. We'll change the times. Yeah. But it's one of those really awkward conversations. Or a conversation I had recently with a particularly elderly customer, partially sighted. I'm really sorry there were mouse droppings in your house. No, they're not. They're technically tea bags split open. There was a dead mouse. No, there wasn't. We're not lying. There was a dead mouse, and you've got mouse droppings. We can't come back till it's sorted. No, but this is happening. Like, categorically telling me this is not happening. You go, what do I say? Or a really awful one. I've had this a couple of times. The staff are saying, I've had flea bites from the house.
Oh, yes.
Well, and I'm like, right, okay, well, if we're suspecting fleas, then obviously there's a problem with the equipment. There's masses of problems here. So you've got to go back to the client and go, look, this has happened. Could you possibly sort out the flea problem? Fumigate. Well, what do I do? And so, look at the Pets at Home website, go sort it. And then they come back and go, my cat did not have fleas. You're making this up. I'm like, oh, what do I do here? Because, one particular one, I went round to the client's house. The cleaners were absolutely adamant that they were getting flea bites. The customer was absolutely adamant that there was not fleas. So I said, all right, I will be there during the next clean. And the cleaner's 5 minutes into the job, vacuuming the stairs, and a flea bite appears on her arm. I'm there watching it. And the customer is like, well, I think she's making it up. I was like, but I've literally been here. We saw her arms before because they told me it was going to happen. And this bite has just appeared. And in the end, obviously, we parted ways, and they were really cross with the way that I had treated them. And I was like, I don't know what to do. You told me you don't have it. We've come back on the assumption you don't have it, and the bites are still appearing.
Yeah. And maybe that's, obviously, I think we choose our clients as well as the other way around, don't we? So they're not just choosing a cleaning service. Sometimes we have to choose the right clients sometimes too, don't we? And those that are not acknowledging that there's a problem, maybe it's their mindset around how important the cleaner is. And yeah, they're just not really right for our businesses, are they?
It's really hard. Go on, what's the hardest one you've had to deal with?
The hardest for us is always when a client is elderly and is perhaps getting dementia. We've had probably over the years, probably 2 or 3 clients where, we've been cleaning for them for a long time and all lovely. And then for them, kind of their personality starts to change a little bit. And we've had accusations. And we had one, sadly passed away now, lovely chap, but, he would hit my team member with his cane, not like beating, but just like sort of like nudge her with it. And it was just like, so dealing with things like that where it's actually them personally is really hard. And then when it goes over into, and I know one of our members does a lot of personal care alongside the cleaning business, but that's not what we do. So when it leans into actually needing care, that's a really difficult conversation to have, usually not just with the client, but with family members. It's like, and they're sort of like really upset that we can't go anymore because they were relying on us. We can't go in anymore because the situation is just not tenable for our team, or our team are even going, I can't go there anymore. They're for me the hardest because they're the emotional ones, and you feel really bad, and it's not their fault.
We had one that unfortunately had become incontinent, and the smell of urine was, I think I got a strong stomach. I was like, I can't do this.
Horrific. Yeah.
It was involuntary gagging. It was really bad because it soaked through the carpet. It had gone on for months. So we'd already said that we're not using our own vacuum or equipment up there. And so we tried to deal with it, but it had got worse, and there was feces. And it was that point of, I didn't even have the heart. At this point, it had been clearly discussed. I talked to them quite upfront about these things. We'd used all their equipment. And in the end, I just had to say, look, I'm sorry, we're dropping all cleans of that length, or we're not covering the area.
Yeah.
I had to terminate it because I tried everything to deal with it. And it's not fair on staff.
No, we've got a thing now with, we've had a couple of clients that are really heavy smokers. And we just turn them down now. It's, again, it's just such a horrible environment for your team member to work in when, even if the client's not smoking at that minute, they smoke so much in the house. You come out and your hair smells and your clothes smell, and it's just cloying while you're in there. It's horrible. So yeah, we kind of have to choose our clients quite wisely, but sometimes they just come and we have to eventually let them go, don't we? It's quite sad.
It's really hard. So let's talk about good customers, because we've talked about the bad ones, but honestly, 1%, if that, are ones where I would say, I wouldn't clean. I've got to say, I now filter them out a little bit at quote stage. What's a good customer?
Yeah, a good customer for us is the ones that are flexible. So, we've had crazy scheduling challenges in the last couple of years. I've never known it so bad. So our clients have had to be flexible, and we actually put a thing out to ask them to be flexible because we were struggling, and we were just honest, and I remember I sent out an email, and it started off, as, all the years we've been in business, and, blah, blah, blah. And one of our clients came back to us and said, oh my God, thank God, I thought you were going to say you were closing, or that you were something. But actually, we were just asking them to, please bear with us. We're trying, our hardest to fit everybody in. And sometimes we might ring you and ask you to change your day or reduce your time. So for me, a brilliant client is a flexible client. We don't want to let anybody down. So if we can have clients that are happy to be flexible, it helps all of our clients.
Yeah. And ones that understand. So I've got clients that went to one today, actually, and the house can be a little bit messy. She'd put all the things on the bed. And so we could just go and clean. I'm like, yes, thank you. To just, when they do little things like that, and you go, oh, just thank you. Just understanding and getting the job, and some of them are so nice.
Yeah, and I think one of the things with our clients that our favourite clients that I've loved is how good they have been through the pandemic and through COVID, when we closed for a few months in 2020. 20, was it? Gosh, 2020. But, we've got clients that are doctors and worked all the way through, and, but they really, really value what we do incredibly. And we get such amazing, just positiveness from them all the time. And that's really lovely. So if we have got a challenge, they're like, don't worry, I can miss my clean, or I can move to Thursday. They're just brilliant because they kind of get it, and they know that this has been a difficult couple of years for everybody.
I love the relationships though. I love and hate. I love that I can go into my local town and so many people, I just have to walk down the street. And if I can remember what they actually look like, I actually recognize loads of people. Sometimes I can't, it's a bit embarrassing, but whatever. It's lovely. I tend to have really good relationships. I get on with them really well. I don't obviously go into their houses as much anymore, but when I used to, I just love it. I love the environment, the people. We make a difference to them, but they make a difference straight back to us.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things I used to love when I did go out and do the cleaning was you kind of, I don't know, you sort of on the sidelines kind of watch their children grow up a little bit and that sort of thing, didn't you? And I don't get as much of that now because obviously I don't go out and do the cleaning, but it is nice to know that you make a big difference, and the clients that value that are definitely the favourites.
Yeah. Oh, I do love that. I'm going to say it's a lovely job. Okay, so when you do 10% of clients complain, okay, most just don't even say anything. Yeah. So they just, and then what I find is I go into a house and I go, so anything you want to tell me about? No. Is there anything you want to tell me about? No. If there was something you wanted to tell me about, what would it be? Well, and I'm like, okay.
list.
I think from what I've seen, and I see this in my own company, and I know this happens across the industry, there is a real problem with complaints in that cleaners don't deal with complaints all that well. They take it really personally. So I know our cleaners, they'll get a little bit of feedback. So if I get a bit of feedback about a clean and I worked my absolute butt off and they're like, oh, you missed a bit. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, like it's really annoying, but fine. Take a deep breath. Okay, what happened? But they will fly off the handle and go, I did do it. I'm not going back to that customer anymore. And then what we see, unfortunately, across a lot of the chat groups is that actually cleaning business owners are behaving like this as well. And it really is giving us as a cleaning industry a bit of a bad name. And I get it. I hate being criticized for something I believe I did well. But as self-employed cleaners, we kind of have to stop doing that.
Yeah, we've got to really take the emotion away from it. And it goes back to we care that we want to do a good job. So we ought to care that the client isn't happy or has something that just want us to change, because ultimately it's their house.
And if they're unreasonable, and some clients are unreasonable, so I love these clients. I'm basically like, send them to me. If they're unreasonable, I'll go, right, show me. I'll clean it in front of you. And of the 10 things they're going to show me, only 8 are just ridiculous. They're like, you didn't remove that mark. It's paint. What do you want me to do? That's not my job. So 2 of them will be valid complaints. But if they are being super unreasonable, what you do by going around it with them, the reality is they've probably gone through 6 other cleaners first, and they really appreciate that you actually do that. They'll stay with you forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all part of that mindset of, are you a professional cleaner? If you are, then you have to learn to deal with complaints. You have to learn to deal with feedback that you might be uncomfortable about. That's just part of it. It's part of growing with your business, isn't it? It's what you have to do. And on the plus side, you get all the lovely clients who are flexible and never complain and give you a tip at Christmas, So there are real pluses as well. Like I said, it's only a small percentage.
And can I tell you a complaint I got? It was about a clean I was on. So I got so frustrated with this. I don't like cleaning in a room with clients in. It's much easier for me if I clean one that isn't. So I said, okay, where are you going to sit? And they said, I'm going to sit in the lounge. I said, fine, I will clean the kitchen. I was alone on this clean. Went to clean the kitchen. As she comes in and starts making a cup of tea, I was like, shall I go in the lounge? She was like, oh, all right then. So I started doing the lounge. She comes in and starts doing her work while I'm in the lounge now. I was like, what do I do? Do I go back to the kitchen? So she's there, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to make polite conversation. So I start making conversation. She's like, look, Louise, I really can't talk to you. I've got work to get on with. I was like, huh? Anyway, right. I then go back to the kitchen because I don't want to be making this conversation anyway. And she complained about me. So I was just covering a cleaner. She complained about me to the office of being distracting. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you have no idea how hard I tried not to be distracting. And then there was another complaint to this. She showed me where she wanted her rubbish put. She had such difficult bins. There were bins all over the place and recycling. So she shows me where to put the bathroom bin. I put the bathroom bin in the place she tells me. Then she complained that I put it in the wrong bin. Now, maybe I did, but I'm sure that's what she showed me. And you know, when you're just like, oh, I don't even care anymore. Like,
if that was one of your team, you would have given them that feedback in such a way that actually, hopefully they can. Or maybe actually you might not have given them some of the feedback. Do you ever kind of just go, do you know what? I'm not going to go to my team member with that because I don't need to. Or maybe we'll do a team-wide notice about something or a bit of retraining, a different way of doing things. But we don't have to individually tell them about every bit of feedback.
Would I say that the team member distracted them while they were working? I don't know. I'd say, you know what, they've said you're a bit distracting. Were you cleaning in the same room as them? And the team member would probably go nuts about it. And
I don't want to go back. Yeah.
I don't know how I'd resolve that. I would probably say to her, do you want to arrange next time to make sure you're out? Or would you like to be in the lounge and we'll leave the lounge? I would probably try and systemize the thing out of it.
Yeah. It's very hard. And that's, I suppose, where we, you know, as somebody who's working solo and getting that feedback direct from the client with nobody filtering it, it is hard for them to deal with it. And that's perhaps why the emotion is there, because we know with our team members, if we fed it straight to them, then they would be upset. So, yeah.
You know, I'm proud of my behaviour after this one. Right, shall I tell you what I did? I'm human.
This is confessions of a cleaning business owner, so go on, confess away.
We have policy, so we terminated after this particular one, just because we were like, look, we can't deliver what you want, blah 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 blah. So she was like, right, can I have my key back? And we were like, yep, you can have your key back, right? You can pick it up. So it was a Saturday morning, and we were like, right, well, you can pick it up during office hours, or we can post you, but we'll charge you for the postage. Or we'll drop it off next time we're in the area, which we will do. She was like, I want it today. We were like, it's a Saturday. So we basically were like, well, you can pick it up. We'll meet you at the office. You can come and pick it up. And the office, she was like, nope, I can't do that. And we were like, what? And she starts screaming and shouting down the phone to us about how we weren't giving her key back. And we were like, we'll give you your key back. We have no desire to keep the key. This is the options you've got. None of them were suitable for her. And in the end, I was like, well, you know, these are the options. We're not bending. And I thought I could have just done it. I could have just dropped it off. And I basically said no. And I was like, but I just stuck to policy. And then I was like, oh, and then I dropped it round later on the afternoon because I felt super guilty. And I was like, I didn't need to have that argument. I could have just either told her I would drop it round or completely stuck to my policies. And it's really difficult when you've got a client shouting and raving at you. But I was like, do you know what? I don't want her to turn up at the office. I will just drop it off. But
yeah, you kind of got to sometimes think, what's the easiest solution here for everybody? What's going to cause the least hassle long term? And you know what? It's much easier to stick a client's key through their letterbox than have them come to your office and you've got to actually speak to them. So, yeah, I'd have gone with that. I'll pop it in.
It was a 20-minute journey out of my way on a Saturday afternoon. And I was just like, oh, do I have to do this? And sometimes it's really hard though, isn't it? Sometimes you just have to back down and go, you know, it's not a fight I want to have.
I think it's that thing of, you know, you talk about being a fight. I think it's that need to win sometimes can be detrimental. I want that client to suffer. And it's like, well, yeah, but you're going to suffer too because they're going to turn up at your office and shout at you. So just bite the bullet, back down and just deliver the key or whatever it is, you know, just, life's too short.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because technically our policies were absolutely right, you know. Yeah. But, and I see this in the group sometimes, and like you just go, just give in. Yes, you're right. Yes, they should follow the policy. Yes, this. But you know what? For an easy life, there's so few of these customers. Just give in. Or staff. When I see people arguing with their staff, and I think, you know, There's
Yeah,
bigger
you can
things.
be right or you can be happy.
Yeah.
You can't always be both.
Difficult customers I've learned along the way. Do you know what? Just be happy. And sometimes if they're ridiculously difficult, yes, I can prove to them they're difficult. Yes, I can win. But what do I really get? Yeah. Sometimes I'd rather go have the clean for free, have this, have it. Just please go away.
Yeah, 100%. And then you just replace them with a client that is, you know, flexible and loves what you do and probably even pays more.
And isn't taking up loads of my management time. There's where I have to visit every time for the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, come on.
No, it's not. Well, that's all your profit margin gone, isn't it? So yeah, you need to walk away from it.
Yeah, I don't know what we've come to the conclusion of here. I feel like
that we have.
Brand, haven't we? So I'm worried customers are going to listen to this and actually go, "What are you two doing?" Lovely customers.
Well, as we have said, you know, I would say over 99% of our customers are amazing. And in fact, even the other 1% are still amazing. We just had feedback and we've dealt with it. So, you know, we wouldn't be in this business if we didn't love it, or we wouldn't have stuck around in this business so long if we didn't love it. But I think sometimes you've just got to, you know, big girl pants, and you've got to deal with those challenging situations. It's part of having a business.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. I definitely think business owners have it hard. It's hard to just, and if you get 3 or 4 in a week, it's just a battering. You go, nobody even likes what I'm doing. Why am I even in business? You go, but I haven't had one for like 3 months.
You start to doubt everything, don't you? You're like, oh my goodness, everything is I need to retrain my whole team. What's going on? But it isn't. It's just a tiny percentage, and because we measure the stats, we know it's a tiny percentage, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's hard. It's just hard. I feel for businesses. I feel when I'm seeing them like going, I don't want to do this anymore, and I go, I get it, and
no easy solutions here. Just systemize out the problems and just be brave.
The other thing is the DCBN community, because we all have this. And sometimes when you get your multiple complaints in 1 week, you feel completely alone. You feel terrible. And this is where the community comes in. And I think the DCBN is amazing because it's private. So we're sat here telling the world the terrible things we've probably done. You know, you don't have to do that. You don't have to expose yourself to criticism the same way Diane and I just have. You know, part of the DCBN is to come to a private place where people understand and your customers aren't going to know about it. Don't publicly announce it on a podcast like we just
like us. Yeah. But no, I mean, that's one of the best things about the community. And, you know, and Louise and I are there as part of the community as well. You know, if we've got challenges, we share. But, you know, I've had 2 private messages just in the last couple of days, just helping a member out with something. One had a staff issue, one had a question around travel time and that sort of thing. So, you know, we're there, but the rest of the community are there for each other as well. And that's my favourite bit about the DCBN is the community.
Yeah, I love it. Right, it's the end of the podcast again.
That's it. Gosh, if you like it, subscribe and please share.
Brilliant. We've got lots of subscribers. We've just hit 1,000 or something. What have we just done?
Fantastic.
I don't know. We've done something on YouTube. I'll have a look later. We've got some great stats. Anyway, join the podcast. Bye.
Bye.